right. Well, good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Talk About It Live with Frank and Manny. How you doing this morning,
Hey,
Frank?
good morning,
You all
brother.
right, brother?
Good
All
morning,
right.
everybody.
All right. Well, man, thank you all for joining us here this morning on Taco Tuesday, a nice and rainy Taco Tuesday here in Del Rio. So, man, I really appreciate the rain.
Yeah, some people got sleet out west, so it's hey, we'll take the moisture, we'll take the rain from above, from our Father of Lights. Thank you, Lord. We need it.
Yep,
The
we sure
land
do.
needed it.
We sure do. And, we always welcome God's blessings, and it's always important to look for God's blessings in everything,
Yes.
including the rain. The scriptures always, the scriptures tell us and are faithful that He works all things together for the good, right? For
Amen.
those who love Him are called according to His purpose. And so I truly believe in that. And I want to thank you this morning. We got a lot to talk about this morning over the weekend. I got news from my sources in Border Patrol that was very, very troubling. And of course, this border crisis is still ongoing. And I think, sadly, Frank, I think a lot of people are beginning to normalize this.
Yeah, it's part of that continuum, folks. And so what happens is, they want to desensitize, and so that's part of it. They'll hyper something, hypersexualize, move people into the country, but the census is just hyper. It's an overload, and so you do become desensitized to it, and then you normalize it, and then you move on to legalizing, legitimizing.
Right, now legitimizing, and we understand, ever since I've been in the Border Patrol, Frank, we've always had those who have, been kind of sympathetic, I guess, for lack of a better word, let them come across or just trying to make a better way for themselves. And the reality is, yeah, there are some that are coming to, try to make a better way for themselves. But the reality is that there is a legal process.
Yeah, that's one of those things that, and we've said it before, folks, that the 50 states, the union had to agree on was at least a naturalization process. It's what defines a nation. What are the standards? What they have to pass through the gates, and so that's a process that's been in place now. It's been tweaked here and there, but still, for a nation that is based on the rule of law, that's based on the Constitution, a moral code and the United States Code and state statutes, etc. An orderly society requires and survives through upholding the law.
Right. And if you talk to a majority of legal immigrants, that have naturalized, they stand against illegal immigration.
Yeah, they detest it, man. They detest it because they went through the legal process. They waited. They waited, in many cases, many years and years.
Right.
They paid a lot of money out of their hard-earned income, to do it the right way, because it's a part of, becoming an American. And so anything other than that, for the most part, that is outside the legal process, cheapens. It cheapens it, and as we're seeing here, it's actually of no consequence. It's of no value to them. That there is a process in place. They don't have any skin in the game per se.
Right. And if they're willing to disregard even that basic law, the basic rule of law, maybe at its lowest level, in regards to illegal immigration, what other laws are they willing to disregard, right? When they come into the United States illegally, the majority of illegal aliens that I've apprehended throughout the years, Frank, I think very, very little, maybe less than 5% that I remember talking to, and never really intended to become American citizens.
Well, that's one of the things that it's that beacon. It's that city, on the hill, man. There's an allure to our country, man. They want to, there is that continual stream of immigrants that have come to our country, and so what we've had here, man, is just a total bypass of that.
Yeah.
A total cheapening of it. It really demeans it. And now look, there's cases for asylum. There's cases for humanitarian outreach. There's certainly always been that, and we are a moral, compassionate nation. But there comes we have to also be practical, and we have to have sustainability. We have to be able to keep up, maintain what we have. Otherwise, no one will benefit from a weakened, broke, non-existent country.
Right. And I think a lot of people don't realize, Frank, that there are every year well, except this administration, usually every year the previous administrations would, how do you say, calculate how many immigrants we could allow into the United States and still be sustainable as a country, our economic system, welfare systems, things like that. And this is just a complete chaotic system that's happening, right? If you can't even call it a system.
Yeah, it's not even a system, bro. And look, we expected that from the socialists. We expected that from Biden and his handlers, the puppet masters. We knew that was going to happen. But what folks were, no, and let me qualify this. What a lot of people on the conservative side, Republicans, etc., what they have kind of banked on is that you would have moral leaders. You would have people who are elected to office, that would work to sustain, our nation.
Right.
They would do, enact, and perform and execute the will of the people as it was in line with the Constitution, with our great precepts, with our great foundation, our great principles, man. And what we started seeing was a betrayal. We started seeing a betrayal of those principles. We started seeing not just an outright betrayal where deals were made, and but we also started seeing just an abdication. Where people are just rolling over. There's not even a resistance to what's happening. If anything, it's just lip service.
Right.
And Americans are tired. Texans are tired. Conservatives are tired. Republicans are tired. Even socialists, that love America, I'm not socialists, Democrats, or even Democrats,
Yeah.
that have seen their Democrat Party taken over by the socialists are tired of it as well.
Yeah.
We've been reading, all manner of reports that this is backfiring on Biden and the administration, is backfiring on the Marxists. It surely is. But what cannot get lost in the wash of all that, Manny, is that Americans have awakened.
Yeah.
And a lot of it had to do with with that awakening that took place during 45's presidency, Trump's presidency, where the media was exposed,
Yep.
where the Democrats were exposed, and then the establishment, unit party element within the Republican Party was exposed.
Yeah.
And so even though Trump is out of the scene for now, his legacy is that Americans awakened to the maneuvering and the games, and they're fed up. They're not going to take any more of it, man. They're tired.
Right.
And everywhere around this country, they're kicking off the chains. They're throwing off the chains, and they're standing up as patriotic Americans.
I agree. And whether you like Trump or not, whether you liked him or not as president, in my opinion, he is a very polarizing figure. I've admitted before that when he was running for office, I did have some struggle there voting for him, a lot of prayer, but the reality is that he did expose a lot of what is wrong with our system, what is wrong with the governmental system, the media, the establishment, Republicans, that are in office, and real quick, getting back to how our founding fathers operate, regarding this nation, in the Constitution, Frank, a lot of people say this is not mentioned, that's not mentioned, things like that, and we talked about moral leadership, right?
Yeah.
Moral leadership. I think one of the big reasons a lot of things aren't mentioned in the Constitution is because it was basically implied that you would follow a moral compass, and that certain things were expected of American citizens.
Yeah, and so look, even if you go into the writings of our founding fathers, bro, there's references to what is desirable, what are desirable qualities, and one of them is, for instance, to be a Christian.
Yeah.
That was, this is a Judeo-Christian nation, and people cringe and cower at that and get angry at that. It is what it is, and that's the founding of our nation. And so, there was also an expectancy that free men, free people would exercise their God-given abilities, the intelligence that the Creator God, invested in us.
Yeah.
And so what we've seen is, and that's, a walking away assessment, from analyzing, from critical thinking, from from spending time reading God's word, and then allowing your mind and your thoughts and your spirit to dwell on the things of God and the Word of God, and that is part of the reason of why we're dealing with what we're dealing with now.
And how influential, historically speaking, the founding of America, the great, American experiment, was so influential.
Yes.
That, believe it or not, Frank, in Jewish history, because Israel became a state just recently in 1948, not too long ago. Within many people's generation. But at one point, I think if it hadn't been prophetic, if it hadn't been for prophecy and God's law, God's prophetic importance in regards to Israel, at one point, many in Israel were looking at Alaska to establish the Jewish state. Do you believe that? It's incredible. And I say that because Israel is the only democracy within the Middle East. The only free government, the only free country in the Middle East. And yet, at one point, they were looking at a little area in Alaska to establish the Jewish state. Wow. And to me that speaks volumes in regards to the founding of America, the founding of the United States, and its mission, and what it means to the rest of the world. I get so angry when I hear and I see these young people, embracing communism, embracing socialism, and speaking against our country. I defended this nation. I served this country. You served this country. I served under the flag of the United States. And one of the greatest sights that I always remember seeing, during my time of service and when I was in a foreign country, was the United States flag. Because to me it always represented a beacon of hope, a beacon of freedom that a lot of people in this world don't have.
Yeah.
And I've always encouraged people that, look, if you hate this country so much, go and live in a socialist country for a while. Go and live in a communist country for a while, and see how free you really are.
And it's creeping across the across the world. What are considered Western civilization societies. I mean, look at the draconian measures that are being taken against their own people. The government's turning against their own people because they won't succumb to the will of an elite, a small group of people. Really, if you think about it, and we've said it over and over, is why. How was it possible that a few Nazi soldiers, could control hundreds of men and women?
Yeah.
And there was a threat of death, there was a threat of violence, but at some point or another, there has to be that spear point. There has to be that group of people who are willing to demonstrate leadership, to demonstrate moral courage, demonstrate, that they have heard the voice of God, the calling of God, and they are going to go forward. And it might mean their death. Think of the apostles.
Yeah.
They were martyred.
Yep.
But that led to the expansion of the knowledge in the body of Christ. And so, there are many parallels that we can see. Earlier we were taught, you mentioned Trump being a divisive figure. Well, there's always, divisiveness.
Yep.
And true leadership, honestly, is going to cause a conflict. When you have the status quo and, that compromising, side of an issue, and then true leadership who says it doesn't have to be that way. Right. Victory is ours if only we will be brave enough, to confront the obstacles, confront the dangers, and march into that land, brother.
Yeah.
And that's true leadership.
It is true leadership. The other day when I was reading the scriptures, and I'm always amazed at this description of Messiah's early disciples and apostles. When they were going out to spread the good news. And these men, 12 men, that were going out to spread the good news of Messiah, were identified as those who have turned the world upside down. I don't know if you remember reading that in the Brit Hadashah in the New Covenant. They were described as men who had when they came before certain leaders. These are the men who turned the world upside down.
Yeah.
And I remember one master friend of mine had told me one time, he said, we're salt. We're called to be salt and light to the earth, right, Rabbi? I said, oh yeah, we are. He goes, salt irritates. And I said, yeah, it does, doesn't it? And he said, yeah. So sometimes we have to irritate some people with the truth because the truth hurts many times.
And the truth is, as we've been doing, I saw you at the Stripes over there, showing people what's happening. I was at our local NGO down here, just a continual flood of people. That is the truth. we're not making up those images. We're not, DGI, CGI or whatever, formulating any of those images that we're bringing to you folks. This is happening right now. And we're out there just letting the cameras speak for themselves, letting the camera, demonstrate to you what is happening out here on the border. And this, this invasion continues unabated, even though unabated, even though right now it's cold and it's a little bit drizzly, sleet in some parts of the area. I bet you there's still people out there moving around. And
well, because for us, when I was at the patrol, I used to look forward to the winter months.
Yeah, it would slow things
because
down.
it would slow things down a little bit, and that's when I used to go out and be able to get to know my area a little bit more, walk more trails, things like that.
Oh, yeah.
To try to find
Stuff
and stash houses and all kinds of stuff. But and so let's look at some of the numbers. Let's talk about some of the numbers over the weekend. Over this weekend, Del Rio sector had over 2,900 illegal aliens come through. My sources also expressed to me that there has been an average, which is a conservative number, about 300 to 400 per day in the station, not including farm outs.
Wow.
And what is that? What are farm outs? Farm outs are like extra numbers of illegal aliens that come into a station, and then the station basically sends them to other stations to help with processing. So that number could be anywhere from 100 to 200, 300, 400. It could be doubled. You know what I mean? But they just send them out to other stations. So in essence, conservatively speaking, Frank, we're getting a little over 3,000 coming through Del Rio per week.
Wow.
Per week, and sad to say, the majority of them are being released.
Yeah, and it doesn't slow down, man. I know there for a while was 5,000, etc. It's going to fluctuate given different factors. There's a there was a report, and I think it was. Did you mention it? That there was 100 testing kits.
Yeah,
that
it
went
was me.
out.
I got a call yesterday that at the local NGO that you went to and showed all those. That's why it was so ironic to me, because you're over there showing how these illegal aliens being loaded up onto and they're still illegal, folks.
Greyhound.
Somebody because they have that yellow manila folder in their hand doesn't make them legal. They are in the country illegally, and so. But anyway, I was told that 100 test kits were taken. COVID test kits were taken to that local NGO and tested. They tested 100 of those illegal aliens there. Over 80% of them came back positive.
Yeah.
For COVID. And were they detained? Were they
Returned?
Were they returned? Nope. They were put on buses and sent out to their appointed destination throughout the United States.
Yeah, man. And wasn't there a executive order that was put out by the governor saying that the transportation companies, commercial companies that were moving people would be dealt with.
My wife brought up a good point. I was telling her about this. She says, babe, these buses, they don't go straight through. They stop.
Yeah.
They make stops periodically throughout different towns, and so they get off. They go into public areas, and they can leave basically whatever is ailing them, behind for other people. So you imagine 3,000 per week, 80%, conservatively speaking, are positive. That's over 2,000 or about 2,400, right?
Yeah.
That are positive, COVID positive. But not just with COVID. We talked about this earlier in other broadcasts. But there's other things that they're bringing into the United States. And so these NGOs, Frank, in my opinion, are not only facilitating the further illegal immigration and alien smuggling and being used as travel agencies for the cartels and smuggling organizations, but they're contributing to the spread of COVID.
Yeah, it's a contribution not just of illness, disease, the bug right now, but also, Manny, into our communities. There's going to be a drain. Wherever they go. Our communities, they have limited, tax bases out there.
Yeah.
And, as it is right now, a lot of Americans are feeling the pinch, with inflation and, the way things are going. And so now in many communities across our country, there's going to be an influx of people that will surely be a strain, put a strain on any, support structures, support services within those communities. And I get it. You know, people are going to want to help. People are going to want to help. They're going to want to reach out. Um, but it's still going to, cause a strain. It's still going to cost, money. And in our society, a lot of it, if private donations don't come in, if corporations don't step in, um, if churches don't step in, then it's taxpayer funded.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, folks. I'm not opposed to helping people who are in desperate need of food and water and maybe even shelter. Our congregation won't turn people away if they come and are in need of such things. But the reality is, folks, is that a lot of these illegal aliens that are coming through, from what I understand, Frank, they have money on them. They have very, very well kept clothing and iPads and iPhones and whatnot. But that's besides the point. But the point is as well is that this is putting a strain on our society. And what gets me, Frank, is we have all these mandates against American citizens. People getting arrested. I saw a video the other day of a family getting kicked out of a local restaurant where they lived at, a local IHOP. Police actually came, like 4 or 5 police actually came. I was trying to queue up the video earlier, but I couldn't get it. But anyway, and 4 or 5 police officers came, kicked out this family from an IHOP because their little boy didn't have his mask on.
Wow.
And couldn't prove any vaccination, and so and they threw this whole family out, bro.
Yeah.
And
That's just that's when I say draconian, what does that mean? Heavy-handed.
Yeah.
Just authoritarian. And it's that's been a kind of an aspect of, pet peeve of mine, man. You walk into a restaurant with a mask and you sit down, take off your mask. Does the air conditioner stop circulating the air in that restaurant? Does a magical force field, just come around every table?
Yeah.
Does a magic bubble of some kind, just materialize and keep the microbes, within your little confined area?
Yeah.
It's not about, a safety, health, medical, issue here. It's about obedience. It's about compliance.
Yep.
It's about subjugation of your will to the will of another. Yeah. And that's why freedom-loving Americans, that's why, people who have a sense of the freedom that God gave us and our unique identity and our independence is given to us by God, that's why, it rubs them wrong, because it is a flipping over of the intent of government. Government was not meant to rule over us, man.
Right.
It's meant to help. It's not, and it's meant to serve the people, and that's why Americans, are chafing at it. It bugs us. It gets under our skin, because it is wrong. And in cases like that, that's just an example, Manny, of how jacked up it is. When people honestly, don't stand up for their rights. In this case, his family. I mean, what did they end up getting arrested?
No. They ended up leaving, but they made their voices heard.
Yeah.
And stood up to the police. But what amazed me, Frank, is that there was like 5 or 6 police officers there trying to enforce whatever this law is or whatever their policy. It wasn't even a law. I think it was a policy of the restaurant or whatnot. And so, which is ridiculous, because as they're standing there scaring the heck out of this little boy and putting this family under stress. And I love our law enforcement. 25 years, you 30 years in law enforcement, but there are bigger fish to fry.
Yeah.
There's bigger fish to fry out there, folks.
Yeah.
And I get it. You want to appease the owners, or you think you're bound by this certain, but I also think, Frank, and I'm not trying to cause any insurrection or anything like that, but the reality too is that in law enforcement you do have a voice. There are some risks that you're going to take. But man,
you have discretion.
You have discretion. You have discretion.
Yeah, and that's so important, for our military and law enforcement. That's why we need a constitutional foundation, bro. That's why we need, constitutional education for all our servants, our public servants, whether they're appointed or elected, and that's critical, because once they get into positions of power and authority, then that becomes it could potentially be a turning point.
Yeah.
Where they misuse, abuse, misplace their authority. Man.
Oh yeah, I used to tell, as a chaplain, I would I would talk to a lot of the trainees as they were about to go to the academy. They would, during their in processing, they would call me in, and they would call us in,
Yep.
to talk to the trainees, to prepare them, help prepare them, let them know that we're there for them spiritually and emotionally and whatnot, to help support them and their families. But I would always express to the trainees, look, this badge that you're wearing, it's not who you are. It tells people what you do, and so don't let it become your identity. And it also is a reminder that you are bound by the laws of the United States, and that you're accountable. But at the same time, you still are human. You're a human being. You have emotions, compassion, empathy, but you also have discretion. Discretion on how you're going to treat people and what laws you're going to enforce. And so I would always express to them too: make sure you get knowledge, you become knowledgeable in the law, that you are enforcing. Because if you're not, then you're going to have incidents like that took place at that restaurant, and then in these other incidents, because you and I have experienced, people who shouldn't be in uniform.
Yeah, a bit of heavy-handedness. Officer discretion was always it was a very important aspect of being a law enforcement officer. Look, there's laws, they're on the books, but one of the greatest aspects of our system here in our country, Manny, is that it's unique, amongst the nations on the face of the earth. But as Americans, we need discretion. We need good judgment, maturity. You and I conducted those structured interviews for the Border Patrol. We hired.
Yeah.
We conducted the hiring boards for Border Patrol agents. Prospective agents.
Yeah.
Applicants. And the manner in which we went about that, we were looking for that ability to make decisions in stressful situations. And even though there was clearly, there were clearly, one route you could go, there was also, an aspect of that scenario where there was room for for emotional maturity, judgment, the ability to, prioritize and weigh the issues and make a decision that would not get you in trouble, but it was a sound, wise decision.
Yeah, because I'm just going back into my mind and thinking of a lot of these answers, bro, that some of these applicants would give, like, oh my gosh, I don't know about.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, man. There's some answers that it's like, wow, man.
One day I feel like I told one of my buddies, I said, man, one day I feel like writing a book on a lot of these answers, bro, that some of these applicants would give. I'm like, what? You just watch a Lethal Weapon movie, or you came in here? Anyway. But folks, we got a lot of stuff, going on in our community. It's going to be affecting the rest of the United States. But the elections are coming up as well in March. The primaries are coming up. So folks, it's time to vet your candidate. Go to their find out their voting record, find out what they do, look at their actions and whatnot, who they support, where their money's coming from. Frank, you always say all the time, follow the money. And as I've been looking at certain websites in regards to a lot of the candidates, man, Frank, some of the stuff that the money's where they're coming from is ridiculous, especially if it's I understand with the Democrats, they're going to get their monies from like people like Planned Parenthood and things like that, which there's no way I'm going to vote Democrat. But generally I vote Republican.
Yeah.
But right now in our district, the district that I live in, District 23, we have sadly Tony Gonzalez as our representative over here. And folks, in my opinion, again, this is not the bash Tony Gonzalez radio show or morning show, but the reality, folks, is he's doing a lot of damage to our not only our district but to the state, which is going to affect the rest of the United States as far as border security goes, illegal immigration goes, as well as helping and assisting the facilitation of illegal immigration, because he supports greatly these NGOs that are doing that.
Yeah, many of the people we're talking, about these issues. The consensus is he has betrayed our conservative values. He's not a real Republican. As a matter of fact, he's a liberal.
Yeah.
And his voting record attests to the fact that he is a liberal. He's the second most. Right behind Kevin McCarthy has a second most liberal voting record of all the Republicans.
Wow.
I don't know if you
Yeah,
have
yeah.
the
I got
picture.
you.
Manny's going to throw up to you, based on an ideological assessment. Yeah, that one right there.
Okay.
Yeah, and he's fixing to throw it up
There it
here.
is. It's on the screen.
And it's from the website. What is it?
GovTrack.us.
GovTrack. And you guys are looking at it right now, and you'll scroll down. Tells you a little bit about where Tony Gonzalez is at.
Wow.
And if you look at that graph there, you can kind of point it out to it. I don't know if you can zoom in on it or anything like that, bro. But
Let's see here.
he's basically,
There you go. That it zoomed in a little bit on there.
yeah, he's at. I don't know if you can run your mouse over there,
Oh,
just kind of
yeah.
highlight the area right there. He's down in the middle, down towards the bottom, bro. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to find him somewhere.
Yeah, he's
Oh, there he is.
right there.
Oh my goodness, right in the middle.
Yeah.
Well, actually, a little bit more to the left, right?
To the left there, and
Yeah,
and
yeah.
if you look at it, there's actually some Democrats that vote more conservative than he does.
Yeah. Let's see. You had a Democrat over here. I don't know how to pronounce that name. Gottheimer or Gottheimer, right?
Yeah.
Voted more, and also Kind has voted more conservatively. Wow, Cuellar even voted.
Yeah, Henry Cuellar out of Laredo.
Yeah, voted more conservatively than Tony Gonzalez did. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, CD23, you guys, you got stiffed, man. You got robbed. We had a true conservative, Raul Reyes, who was running in the race, who would have been definitely a border security hawk, would have definitely, complied with his oath to the Constitution. Instead, we wound up with Tony Gonzalez, who has betrayed not just the Constitution of our country, his oath, but the people who trusted him. If I could get a penny for every time I've heard from folks that say, "Yeah, man, I thought he was going to be good," or "I supported him," or "I voted for him," what a disappointment! I'd be a rich man.
Wow, he's actually in line too with McCarthy, man.
Yeah, well, he's just a little bit to the right. I mean, they're both left.
Yeah.
Look at all those. Look at that sea of red to the right of them.
Right.
And
Yeah, but McCarthy's just a tad left than he is.
yeah.
Wow.
I don't know if people are seeing what we're. Yeah.
Let me see. Let me go back over here. Over here is McCarthy. He's just a little bit more left than Tony Gonzalez, but Tony Gonzalez is not far behind him.
Yeah, and McCarthy, remember, guys, is the guy who wants to be the Speaker of the House, and so that's why they're desperate. That's why they're desperate. That's why they're pretty mad at a person like me who is doing what he has to do, what I have to do, folks. I have to listen to that call. Tony Gonzalez needs to be challenged. He's not a true conservative. He's liberal. His voting record attests to that. His actions, he denied the states on January 6th. He denied the people of the states of Arizona and Pennsylvania. He denied them their right when he voted against the objection of Senator Cruz, for their legislature to look at the electoral college vote from their states, from the state of Arizona and Pennsylvania. He suppressed the state's right.
Wow.
To look at that when he voted against that. Then he voted for the January 6th commission right here this past weekend. My son and I got a text saying, "Hey, there's a man who was arrested, Kinney County, as part of this J6 investigation, manhunt, whatever you want to call it, that's going on." And they arrested him out here next door in Kinney County. They brought him to Valverde, to the GEO facility here. And they asked if we could take in a Bible because the man was asking for a Bible. So, my son went and purchased one out of Walmart, and we ran over there. We couldn't see him. They said we'd have to talk to the chaplain. And it turns out they had actually, man, just gotten him out of here as quick as they could up to Oklahoma. And eventually he was going to go to D.C., man.
Wow.
He was going to go to some dungeon up there. And so Tony Gonzalez had a lot to do with that, folks.
So he's basically still locked up without having any.
Oh, man.
Without basically a trial.
And he's not the only one. He's not the only one. The other night I had a little segment where I talked about who is it? Gateway Pundit, who has a website called, I think it's called like the American Gulag, and he's following a lot of what's happening to this J6 arrestees. And so, people say, well, what do you mean Tony Gonzalez has a lot to do with that? He voted for that committee, bro. He emboldened Nancy Pelosi and the left to march down that road instead of, being a firewall, instead of just, standing up and saying, no, this is wrong. And so that's why, honestly, Manny, anybody can come in and say they're a Republican. Yeah. Anybody can come in and say they're conservative. Anybody can call themselves a patriot. But when you have definitive actions like the one that our congressman has taken, when you have recordable, documented actions like the ones of Tony Gonzalez, the proof is irrefutable. It's before your eyes. And so anybody that's defending a person like that, Manny, they're trying to keep that person in control and power a lot of times because it's benefiting them.
Right.
It's for their own ends. It's to further their agenda, or it's to continue themselves getting enriched. It's to push their selfish purposes, and it's not putting first the desires and the will of Americans and our sovereignty and our Constitution, man. And we all know it. It's been documented. I've documented it for our audience. It's out there. Tony Gonzalez is in bed with non-government organizations that are moving people, and this is a Human Trafficking Awareness Month, and he has done nothing to slow down, to rescind his support of Laughlin Air Force Base being used to fly people into the country, or to speak out against the cartels, what they're doing in Mexico, and how they're using this apparatus, this pipeline that's been set up in our country through the NGOs. With the full support of the United States government.
And I was watching your video the other day of when you were there at our local NGO, the Val Verde Humanitarian Border Coalition, and I was shocked, Frank, now that the Greyhound bus goes straight up to the door of this NGO, and they used to pick them up. There's a designated bus station hub here in Del Rio, Texas, at the Stripes gas station, and now this Greyhound bus service, and folks, I'm sure there was citizens on there that actually paid for their own bus tickets, right? That were probably on the bus going, where are we going, man? And
the only thing I can think of actually is that they probably just chartered that separately, man.
You're probably right.
Because I'd seen other 15 passenger, 12 passenger vans leaving that area, and it's just constant, man. They're just moving out of there. And somebody's commented here, shame on Republicans that are supporting somebody like Tony Gonzalez. See, there's going to come a moment in time here, and I'm talking to my, fellow conservatives, patriots, Republicans. You go look at my record, man. I've always voted Republican. I'm doing what I'm doing, running against Tony Gonzalez as an independent, Manny, because, when there's a cancer within the body, you don't throw out the person.
Yeah.
You don't throw out the whole person. Yeah. What you do is you deal with the cancer.
Right.
You deal with that tumor. So Tony the tumor has to be dealt with. And Tony the tumor has to be excised here. And this is the way you do it. You send into the battle, someone who's going to counter, the effort of the elitist. If in this case, the elitists within the Republican Party, the Uni Party, those that are joined at the hip with the socialists in the destruction of our country, and you go after him, in the manner in which I'm doing, because we have to give Texans here in America, in this district, a choice, a true choice, with a conservative, constitutional, patriotic American who loves his country, and not one who's willing to sell out our sovereignty, willing to sell out our nation, our security. He talks about border security, goes and takes pictures up and down the roadway there with Border Patrol agents. Most people laugh at that.
Yeah. Even agents laugh at that, bro.
Yeah, I think
even agents
they can see right through the guy. But anyways, so why this surgical specific movement against him? Because he's a liberal. He is a liberal who infiltrated the Republican Party, and this is the way you save the Republican Party, bro. You go in and you do radical surgery. You do specific surgery, and so this is a move to save the Republican Party because people are waking up and people are getting tired. They're getting tired of the games that are continuously being played by the elitists. Just a few that think they can crack the whip. And the party faithful are just going to line up. And I've said it before, man. You're going to get a clearly establishment, rhinos, liberals, infiltrators within the Republican Party are going to win because they got a huge influx of money. And once they get past the March primary, you're going to hear the rally cry, vote red, keep it red, line up. And what they're going to say, in CD23, I have no doubt, that Tony's going to get past the primary. They're going to say, you don't like him, but he's a Republican. Paint your nose, hold your nose, vote to keep him in, and they're going to crack the whip. And what they will do is they will use, the template, and this is a template that was exposed by Trump. They will use the media.
Yeah.
They will use
which is he's already starting to do.
He's already starting to do.
Yeah, he's already starting.
They will use the Democrats. And socialist Democrats, and they will use the unit party establishment, rhinos, the swamp. They will use them to come against not just me, a constitutional conservative, but others across the country.
Yeah.
This is the textbook strategy that they do. And so what you got to do is look at the people that are screaming and bleeding, BLEAT, bleeding the most about this, and they have something to gain with a liberal like Tony Gonzalez staying in power, which is getting rich at the expense of our sovereignty, getting rich at the expense of our children, getting rich at the expense of innocent women and children who are being trafficked into our country, man.
Yep.
This entire thing that's going on has to do with human trafficking, the sexploitation of women and children. And true moral Republicans should be outraged at the actions of Tony Gonzalez and what he's doing in this district. And they need to stand up, need to reach down, do a gut check, get right with Christ. And get this guy out of office.
And what's amazing, Frank, is that when you look at the Democrats like Nancy Pelosi and all of her cronies, I don't hear any of them calling out Tony Gonzalez, or standing up, hey, trying to fight him at all, to tell you the truth. I see them, they speak out against Ted Cruz a lot, because he's established reputation as a conservative. There's been some decisions lately that I'm not really crazy about, but the reality is overall, he gets called out by the Democrats. I think even when Raul Reyes was running, against Tony Gonzalez, he even got called out by certain Democrats in office. And so because he's a true conservative, Raul Reyes is a true conservative. And here already Tony Gonzalez is Slam Rag, the was it Eagle Pass news leader?
Yeah, the hit rag.
The hit rag, has been trying to establish, or trying to label you as a rhino, folks. I'm going to tell you right now, I've known Frank for over 20 years, a good friend of mine. I'm not just saying this because he is a good friend of mine, but he does not qualify as a rhino, folks, because this is what qualifies as a rhino. Go look at Tony Gonzalez's actions. You saw how far left he is from Republicans, from true Republicans. That's a rhino. Frank is running as an independent because he explained it, and I pray that God gets you in there, Frank, because the reality is we need true conservatives.
Yeah, we do. Our country's in trouble, man. Our country's in trouble, and the left has shown their hand, and their hand has a knife, which is at the throat of America, and there is no time for games. There is no time, in the past, they'd say, well, you got to broker deals and you got to get in the middle and everything. It's a shame that there's people in this country, Manny, that are willing to, allow an immoral person like Tony Gonzalez, who has aided and abetted and facilitated the movement of women and children into our country. And it's been documented. I saw that here in our audience we have a Sheena Rodriguez. Hey, Sheena, thanks for joining in. Sheena has been going up and down this border, bro, at her own expense a lot of times, documenting what's going on. She's talked to ranchers. She's talked to, property owners, many of persons who live in fear at the cartels that are operating brazenly under property here on United States soil. And we have a congressman who has used his influence and the position and the title to facilitate the movement, act as a magnet to move more people into our country. So yeah, there's a great outrage, and this is going to be part of the steady drumbeat. as we go forward, people like myself, Manny, people like us, we are a threat to the status quo. They want to shut us up. They don't want us exposing how America is being right before your eyes, folks. Right before your eyes, America is slowly being sliced. Death by 1,000 slices, by 1,000,000 slices. It's happening, and you need to get off the sidelines, get off the bench. You know what is right. You know what you need to do, and you need to be loyal to principle, loyal to the Constitution. You need to put that first.
Right.
And otherwise, a generation from now, our children, our grandchildren are going to be looking back and say, what did you do?
Yeah.
When our country was in trouble, what did you do? I did what I had to do. We're doing what we have to do here, Manny. We're spreading the word. We're letting people know. And as for me, I'm acting like a surgeon. I'm going after a particular tumor within the Republican Party that needs to be removed. This liberal who infiltrated our party.
No, you're exactly right, and I'm glad you're doing it. I'm glad you're doing it, Frank. Because it needs to be done. And the reality is, folks, that you need to you need to do your part as well. If all else, get the word out. Help support true conservative candidates. Like Frank, they are out there. If you're not in our district, wherever you're watching that, find the true conservative candidate. Follow the money, who's giving them money, who they support as well, what they voted for, how they voted, and the actions that they're taking. Folks, people like Tony Gonzalez are not doing any good to this country or to the lives of those illegal aliens that are coming into this country as well, folks. They are people. They are human beings. They a lot of them are being put in danger. Like this weekend, Frank, Del Rio sector alone, actually Del Rio Station, or Del Rio sector caught over 70 unaccompanied children. Wow. That, and it says here, been found traveling alone or with complete strangers. Wow. And many said they have no idea where their parents are at all.
Wow, that's terrible. Look, man, our country is a magnet to that. Yeah. Our administration, we're light on on the hill, yes, but by having orderliness there, Manny, by having a structure in place, it allowed for orderly movement.
Yeah.
But this, you see it, the day after Thanksgiving, they have the sales, and you just see people go crazy, man, and do foolish things and stuff. But anyways,
there's no more irony than that, bro.
Yeah. So right here, the magnet that was set out to attract this people, and that's why we started doing those rallies, man.
Yeah.
All you had to do was, think, action, reaction, decision, consequence. By opening the floodgates, these people were going to come north. They were going to be put in danger. They were going to have to rely on the cartels, and the cartels have been proven over and over to be godless, immoral, evil. They dream up new ways of being wicked, bro. And we knew that these people were going to be put into their clutches. And I remember growing up in El Paso when Juarez was like one of the murder capitals of the world. Yeah. And there were women, disappearing and being found dead. And I remember down in Brownsville, Matamoros, remember when the Devil's Cult down there, they killed that college kid. They sacrificed him. Yeah. Why? As an offering to Satan, to quote, supposedly to protect their drug loads, from the law enforcement. The cartels are godless, man. They're evil. And so we knew that there was going to be women, children, men being put at risk by just turning on the light and saying, "Come to America." And then lo and behold, man, we get our congressman who said he was a conservative, who said he was going to fight the socialist, green lighted flights out of our military Air Force base here to get these people out. And he's in bed with the NGOs that are facilitating that. Republicans, you continue supporting that, shame on you. Leaders that continue to support that, shame on you.
Frank, as you're talking about all that cruelty that those cartels do over there in Mexico and in Central America, these other countries, you and I over the years have seen footage of what they do, intel videos and things like that the public doesn't see. And I can tell you, I remember certain videos, bro, that would keep me up at night.
Horrible things.
The horrible things, the images that people can do to other people. And then to the reality. And you and I fought for years, and there's agents out there on the border right now serving our country that are trying to prevent those type of people from coming in, and sadly, because of all these family units and all these OTMs and all these illegal aliens that are coming through, nobody right now is basically patrolling the border. And so those type of people, those cartel members, those cruel, evil people are coming over here, and they're going to be operating the same way that they operate in Mexico and those other countries, folks, with cruelty, with evil intentions, killing human beings, sacrificing human beings. There is the Santo Muerto, religion that a lot of these cartel members follow, that is a religion of death. That and we've seen the cruelty. You and I have seen the cruelty of what it could. And do you think that changes their mind? That changes their heart? Their conscience changes when they come through the river? It doesn't cleanse them, from anything. And folks, so a lot of these children that are coming over are going to be victimized by these same cartels, these same people that are operating with evil intentions and cruelty in Mexico and other countries, folks. And we've seen it, the footage that we've seen, the intel that you, Frank, and I have seen over the years. I tell you, it's nightmarish.
Yeah, and it's sadistic and it's perverse, and just as bad, let alone the women, children, men, they're being exploited, they're being assaulted, raped, beaten, murdered. I mean, we heard that firsthand from a woman. I've said the story, at our church, a lady visited from Haiti, and she cried, man. She needed to be comforted by the Spirit of God, man, because she had seen some horrible, terrible things. Her companions, traveling companions, women were murdered before her eyes, and she was impregnated herself, bro. With she was carrying the child of one of those murderers, man.
Yeah.
This terrible situation here, that's happening. But also equally as evil, Manny, is the amount of drugs that's coming into our country.
Yep.
And that's why Republicans, you need to wake up. Constitutional conservative patriots, you need to wake up, because the magnets that were set up to bring these people in, Tony the Transporter arranged for Laughlin, movement of people out of Laughlin, that flooded and overwhelmed our Border Patrol agents' ability to go out and patrol. And even though we've had DPS and stuff out here, what were they doing? They're sitting on X's. They're sitting in certain spots. They're nowhere, on the ranches and down in the gullies and the draws.
And we can talk about all the smuggling cases that they're catching with reality.
Fentanyl.
All these, fentanyl, and all these alien smuggling cases that they're preventing or apprehending. Folks, there's still people getting released because they're doing what's called paper casing. We talked about that on the last program. Paper casing basically it's just an administrative case, and then the aliens that are involved in all those smuggling cases, they get released. Very few of them go to jail.
And that's what I was getting to, bro. The drugs. I mean, that's just as bad. The drugs that are coming across. It's crazy, man.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so wrong. And people really need to wake up to that. This was intended. It was meant to overwhelm the system. It was meant to just get it to a point to where it's barely even hanging on right now. Yeah. And any other big surges that come in, man, it will overwhelm it, will break it.
Yep.
And that's why down in Eagle Pass, they had that rush on the bridge down at the port of entry. And that's those ingredients are all in the mix.
Yeah.
And so people just need to sit back, take a big picture. Take a moment and look at the big picture. This is not about any one district, any one person.
No.
It's about our nation.
It's about our nation.
What's happening to our country and our way of life.
Right, and our way of life, and to protect our families, protect our children, even to protect the lives of these aliens that are coming across, Frank. Anyway, we can get into that in our next program. But Frank, real quick, we're gonna have to close. But there's an event coming up, right, that you're gonna be a part of.
Oh yeah, the 19th.
So I'm gonna put that up on the screen if you don't mind.
Sure. Yeah. So I've been invited to go speak at an event, folks. It's gonna be in Hondo, Texas, on the 19th. And if you happen to be in the area, take a look at it. We'll be posting it out. We'll be throwing it out there. There's going to be some great speakers there.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be a patriotic evening. It's going to be a time for persons who love America, love Texas, are concerned about what's happening. Go gather with other like-minded, patriots, sons and daughters of Texas who love our country, love our freedom, love our way of life, and are willing to step up and to take a stand to stand with others, to stand alongside other brave warriors who are stepping up to get into the gap, and they're going to fight back against the lunacy of the left, but they're also going to stand up and fight against the insidious unit party, that cancer that's crept into, conservative circles, into the Republican Party. They're going to take a stand. We are going to take a stand.
And we got to take a stand, and folks, one of the ways of taking the stand, actually, believe it or not, I'm going to put in a little plug for our website, is to help support what we do as well. We do have a website, tacoboutlive.com. You can go over there. We do have a donate button there at the bottom, as well, to help out, fuel the mission here, fuel the cause, and getting the word out as well. Email us. Get in touch with us, tacoboutlive@gmail.com. We do have some other links on there that you can go and visit as well, and just get in touch with us, folks, and help support what we're doing. We're gonna Frank is gonna he goes live every just about every day on his
whenever I get a chance.
On his U.S. Border Patriot page, and then we, I try to keep up with our emails and doing all the other some of the behind the scenes stuff as well. So folks, but we can't do it without you and your support as well, and even if we don't have anybody behind, supporting us, we're still going to try to get out there.
We're still going to do it.
Yeah, we're still going to get out there and do it, because we cannot get out there.
We can't be silent, man. Right. I mean, this is it's bigger than me. It's bigger than you and I, Manny. It's bigger. This is about, honestly, and it's about our country. I think about the folks from Tennessee.
Yeah.
Who came to the Alamo, bro, who came down here. Why? Because they realized that. They realized that, they could have stayed in Tennessee and lived their lives out. Hey, there's some guys down in Texas. They tried to do something, man. They got slaughtered. you know? But they came down. They came down. Why? Because it was the call for freedom.
Right.
It was a call to fight against tyranny. It was a call to fight against the powers that be, the elitist ruling class, and to stand together with other patriots. And that's what we're going to be doing. It's going to be, going back to the event on the 19th. It's called the Republican Powerhouse Evening, January 19th, 6 to 8 p.m. is what it says. We'll see how it goes. It's going to be at the Graff Ranch. We'll put it out there in Hondo, Texas. We will put out the information, but if you look at that and it's something you can make, even if you don't live in Hondo or in the surrounding area, hey, look, I mean, we're all joined out here together because we're neighbors.
Right.
We're neighbors, and for Texas, a neighbor is somebody in far west Texas. Man, we're neighbors out here. Yeah. So you happen to be anywhere in the state, just show up.
Yeah.
Drive down to Hondo, Texas, and meet a bunch of like-minded, patriotic, fire in the belly, passionate Americans out there.
Oh, man.
And come join with us, man. We'll be glad to see you, glad to meet you.
Yeah, folks, and we just want to thank you so much for joining us and watching us this morning. Again, God willing, we'll be with you next Taco Tuesday here at 8 a.m. Texas time. I always say Texas time or Central Standard Time. But folks, we want to again thank you so much, and get out there, get the word out, folks. Again, primaries are coming up here pretty soon, so make sure you get out there and you vet your candidate. Go follow the money, see where the money is going, see what their voting record. But also get out there and find the true conservative candidate, folks, and get behind them and get the word out, folks. So again, we want to say thank you so much for joining us this morning, and I want to say God bless you, God bless America, and God bless Texas.